mentioned, I named it the lack of management and investment property before, during, beyond Dubai Expo 2020. So I'm just going to start by saying that now my presentation will cover the 4 areas, which I can't see from you, so I have to come back here. The importance of property management and its components, understanding the real estate economic cycle and trends, difficulties facing the property management, advice and recommendation. Now, introduction, so let me just go fast. Over the past few years, we have witnessed the expansion and the increase in property development and its different sectors. Not to mention, of course, 2008, and that's a long story to talk about it. That's which led to delay and cancelling of the projects. The gentleman knows about so many projects that have been cancelled in 2008 and 2009. And because of some difficulties, probably we need a lot of time to explain why that happened. They call it financial crisis, and I call it probably lack of management. But anyway, since 2011, the real estate market began healing, in particular after everybody heard about the Dubai Expo 2020. It's clear to see the growing scale of a real estate development that has been taking place almost everywhere in Dubai and in the neighboring Emirates as well. Now, despite this, the demand for real estate services, not just in the management level, okay, but within the academic level as well. What I mean here is an education. You have to learn. You have to learn how to enter the real estate market and to invest that market. It is if I ask questions, for example, who's the first property manager? Who's the first project manager? Who's the first one who was calling himself that is a facility management manager, for example? Is the experiences enough? Is, for example, making money is enough just to call ourselves professionals? We will find out in a minute. There is a severe lack in the availability of education programs for real estate and in property management being offered in this region. That's why everybody in the sector of real estate and other businesses are very excited about upcoming Expo 2020. Now, I know that so many studies, so many people, so many officials, so many businessmen were talking about Expo 2020. But I'm just going to highlight these things today with only few points: lack of management and understanding the economic fluctuation in this region. But the big questions remain: why, where, when, and how to benefit from this event. Those questions has to be answered. If those questions are answered, probably we know how to enter the real estate market. In order to answer these questions, we should learn what I call the real estate market's alphabet. You guys see that we have to understand that every sector we wanted to enter, we have to know, we have to learn about that sector before we enter. I recall year 1982 in Kuwait, for example, when everybody started investing in the share market, in the stock market, right? And you could just go and grab a taxi, and even the taxi driver would tell you, I invested in that sector. It is okay for everyone to enter any sector of business, but we want you to learn the alphabet of that business before you enter it, because we want any disturbance like what happened in 2008 as an example, and everybody has a sad stories about what's happening in year 2008 and after. So the alphabet of a real estate market, I will just go and highlight it by big questions. It's a property management, and the gentleman was talking about project management. Let's see what's the link between project management and property management as well. So when does the role of managing personnel begin, for example? We should understand that the management in a real estate particularly, that will start even before purchasing the land that was appointed to build up your project. How is that? Because before we purchase that land, there are so many questions we have to answer, like I said, why, where, when, and how. So that particular, an example just to clear up these things, for example, a land was up for sale in Knowledge Village in Dubai, for example. Knowledge Village, everybody knows that Knowledge Village has only schools and universities and everything. So, and there are some estimated between 25 to 35,000 students in that area. So if I want to just go and get that land built, and the consultant, with all the respect, is going to make me a study for 3-bedroom apartment to be invested in that area, that's not inefficient at all, because the aim of the people, when there are young people, they need just, for example, probably 1-bedroom or studios. So the role of the management will start even before purchasing the land. So let's say, where it's going to start? Before locating the land and the project. The management has to start here, and it's going to end by what I call it personally, the death of that project. Through the economic life of the project. So when the project is ready, for example, the role of the project management will end. The project manager will highlight only technical issues and will manage technical issues when the building, or during the building, during the construction of the building, right? But after that, a property management has to take place. But the misunderstanding of the role of the property management that will start after the building is finished and will be handed over for example, for sale or for rent. Here we will call a property manager and tell him, please come and manage this building. And the property manager was supposed to act on the behalf of the tenants, for example. For example, if I'm a property manager and I have a lot of people coming to my office, like I'm meeting 5 people and I'm a property manager for about 10 years, every client will come and put one ideas in my mind. So I represent the tenants, for example. So I know the needs of the tenant, but the engineer, the consultant, they don't know that. The project manager, they don't know that. They would know, but it's a very limit knowing. And then that's all it's going to be until the project is no longer beneficial. In this case, the management will stop. So please remember, the management will start before starting the any project, for even purchasing the land. That applies to all kinds of properties: residential, commercial, furniture, apartment, retail, industrial, just name it. Okay? Many studies and statistics show that the majority of new businesses collapse within the first 2 years of the beginning, or at least they will face some difficulties. Why is that? Because they don't understand the concept of the management. When we're going to start the management. So it is not a point of go purchase a building and then start, for example, telling you start sell it or rent it or whatever. So we have to be careful about this. Planning a professional management from day one will definitely help you reduce the difficulties and maximizing the chances of business survival. Again, please try just to find out about businesses in this area. From every 10 companies, after 2 years, 7 of them probably closed because of the lack of management. Understanding the correlations of property management strategy, this is very important, and it's gonna, I wish I would have more time just to explain this, because there's so many issues I would like just to share with you, but it seems the time is not in my favor. So the property management must contain or join areas of the activities, including the following will highlight the whole things now. For example, property management. The property management has its own rules, has its own elements, tenants' policies, tenants' contracts, for example, and needs of the owner objectives, the needs of facility management, and so on. Now, the other one is real estate financing. See, do we have a link between property management and real estate financing? Of course we do have. So, for example, like, I went to Saudi Arabia and I was telling them about this harmony of those activities of real estate. They were concentrating only on valuation, for example. Everybody wants to know only appraisal, valuation, but they forget the others. But all of them are linked to each other. So, for example, real estate financing, real estate now, valuation as well. So, for example, if I am a property manager and I will sign, for example, the appraisal of the building to the appraisal officials, for example. That's not correct, because as a property manager, one of my main duties is just to find out the return on investment on this property. The owner deserves to tell him how much is he making by the end of the year. Now, if I wanted to do that, meaning I have to appraise, I have to evaluate the property. If I evaluate the property, meaning I know the ROI. So as a property manager, I have to know also valuation. So see, everything's attached to each other. For example, real estate sales and marketing. Now, those people who are just doing marketing and sales and stuff like that, they would have duties as well. For example, if I just want to go and purchase an apartment and I don't know anything about financing, or my real estate agent doesn't understand how am I eligible for a loan, mortgage, or whatever? If he doesn't know financing, he's not a real estate agent according to the academic way of a property management. We know there's a traditional property management and there's academic property management. Owner association management, it was mentioned this morning. You know what? It is not enough. It is not enough that I have a tower contains, for example, 100 apartments and 100 owners. The 100 owners, we will elect as the law, we will elect the board of directors of the 5, for example. But those five who are elected to manage the building, are they aware of managing of the building? Are they aware just to sign up a contract, outsource contracts, for example, for maintenance and management? Okay, so there are a part of the management called managing of the owner association. This kind of management, we want to see them in this area in order just to go and achieve a proper investment. What else we have here? Facilities management. This is very important because facility management meaning spending money. This is an operating cost. If you don't control that, it's a problem. But I don't want you to control spending on the project, for example, until this project is getting old. And we have to always protect the integrity of the building by preventive maintenance as an example. So there we go. We have to reduce the spending and the operating costs, but at the same time, we have to increase the services. And here is the challenge. So we want to reduce the spending, but increase the services. So if you're really a professional property manager, you could just balance between spending and increasing of the income. Real estate development as well. This is also a part of the management. Real estate brokerage as well. The real estate agent has to have a lot of knowledge in order just to sell or buy or to draw the contract or to ask all your questions. As an investor, I deserve all the answers. I don't want you to tell me, well, those answers are legal, go to a legal department, for example, personnel. Or this one, for example, issues with the government, so you have to go to the government. No, when I go to the agent, I've got the request. When I go to the agent, I find all my answers, and I deserve those answers before just putting money. Energy management. The energy management is almost forgotten, but some of the municipalities started imposing some codes, and they make it mandatory just to have, for example, sustainability and green building. People will think if we just go for energy management or we have to get a green building, they think this is an extra cost. It is an extra cost for now, but for the long term, you're making money and you're also extending the investment life of the project. Ethics, of course. Everything needs an ethics. So whatever we want to do this management, we have to conclude ethics for every profession that was mentioned previously. Arranging all of the above in order and placing them together as one unit, all the above, all that I mentioned, as one unit, when starting any real estate activity is the only way to have a healthy investment that has the ability to survive and generate reasonable ROI during the years of investment. That is the only professional way to start managing or investing in the real estate. I'm talking from experience. Now, after all, we must understand, and here is the cornerstone of my presentation. We have to understand the economic cyclic fluctuation and the trends, and that includes four things. The first is the seasonal variation. The second is economic cycle fluctuation. The third is long-term movement, and the fourth is random changing. As for the first one, seasonal variation, it happens once a year, so you have to get ready for them. For example, in the West, or for example in Canada, there's snow times or Christmas time, the activities of real estate will be reduced, for example. Here in Ramadan time or whatever, those are happening one time. If you want to have a management, a plan, for example, you have to know there are seasonal variation. The economic cycle fluctuation, this is the most important. I'm going just to explain it in a second. Long-term movement, for example, look at Dubai 1971, look at Dubai 1980, look at Dubai 1990, and just try to draw like a chart and see the progress of a real estate. Is it going upward, downward? And look, for example, into a country like Somalia. So you see how the trend is going backwards. So those we call them in the economy, we call them long time movement. Now, random changing, it is very important here. Random changing is what? Random changing is something happened unexpectedly. Meaning, remember when they passed the law and say the foreigners could own a property. So what happened in the market? It's a major shakeup. And you have to get ready, and you have just to right away to add to your plan. There's a new activities is being created, so take care of it. So these are four, and that's why I'm just going to share with you this chart. Guys, please, I should just say, whoever wants to enter the real estate market, anyone or any businesses, if you would not understand what is displayed here, you would have a little problem. But actually, it's a big problem. Why is that? Look at this. Now, that's what we call the business cycle. Look, there's expansion, there's a recession, there's contractions, there's revival, and there's expansion as well. If you think that this cycle would never happen in this area, you would be mistaken. Look, if I ask you, can you point and put on this chart 2003, for example, 2002, can you point and put here, where is 2008? Can you say where is 2011? And can we answer where we're going to be in 2020 or 2020, right? Can we do that? If we do that, we're professional. If we don't do that, we have a problem. If you can't do it individually, get some help from experienced people who could predict what's going to happen. Every feasibility studying in the world has to conclude some numbers, and those numbers, the profits or the income, has to be based on this chart. So this chart, for example, see how dangerous is this chart? As an example, if from the expanding, for example, year 2002, and the agent was telling me, year 2002, they would never have any recession, there will never be a slowing in the economy, and nothing whatsoever. And he made me purchase the land in 2008 with a maximum price. And he based his price and his income, for example, on today's prices. And the project needs to be finished and hand over at least 2.5 years to 3 years. See, guys, consultant, please, I want someone just to tell me when my project is ready after 3 years, I want the prices after 3 years. I don't want, for example, today's 3 bedrooms is 100,000 dirham. And what do they do? Another mistake, which you see it very widely spread here. They tell you that, for example, the gross income for this project, for example, this apartment, as an example, 100,000 dirham. So you would buy it for 1 million and you're going to make, for example, 10%. But that's not true at all. This is misleading numbers. Why is that? Because there is, number one, there's a depreciation on the building. Number two, there's a maintenance fees. Number three, there's a fluctuation of this. For example, if I purchase my property, okay, and I know that 2008 is right around the corner, so I'm renting it for 100,000, meaning in 2008 I'm going to rent it for 80,000 dirham. Vacancies will be spread more. So I have to understand what's going on. So it is not an individual work here, it's a teamwork here, just to know what is going on. So that's why I want these questions not to be answered now, answered later. Now, put year 2016 and 17 and 18 and 19 and 20 and after Expo about 2 or 3 years, I want some prediction, at least 90%. And don't tell me that's impossible, that's miracle. No. When you are an experienced guy and you would understand what's going on and you know the trends of the economy, of course you deserve just to get a healthy investment again. So those who are in the real estate sectors, as for example agents, as managers, as consultants, they have to understand this. Again, the consultant, with all respect, they do have feasibility studying ready, for example. You go and give them the land right away, they have like a chart ready, they have everything's ready, they pull out this feasibility studying and fill out numbers and tell you you're going to make 12%. 13%, but when the project is over, you're going to find out that you are just making 6%. Why is that? Because I want, again, predictions for the future. There's no predictions for the future, we won't get into business. That's why when you go to, for example, to finance any project, they ask you just to go and do visibility study with numbers. The numbers contain contains a budget, and the budget is supposed to be a predicted budget for the next 5 years at least to know what's going on. Otherwise, the bank will not finance you. Those issues are missing. So, understanding the economic cycle will guide you to choose the best time to start without any surprises down the road, even if the economic cycle is not on your favor, on our favor. Meaning, even on the recession, there will be businesses. But at least I would know, probably 2008, 2009, it's going to be slowing in the market. On international TV, I said here 2006, and it's expanded to YouTube, I said we're going towards like the demand and the supply is going to be a little bit like, not equal to each other, so we're going to have some problems. Not only me, so many people, they said 2006, 2007, that some things might happen. Okay, it's an international financing crisis, but what's got to do this with my little project, for example, in Sharjah or Dubai? So again, we have to understand what's going on before we enter. The economic cycle will also help us in setting the average prices of the land and properties with efficient feasibility study. Now, if the agent will convince me to purchase this land for 5 million dirham, for example, and I know for a fact that's the 5 million I'm purchasing now for 5 million, and it's going to be probably 3 million after, for example, a year and a half. So I would want this to happen. I don't want this to be allowed. We want some control. And the land department, to be very honest, they did brilliant work on these things in imposing 8 or 7 laws that regulated the market. And I'm delighted that I worked with them for some of these issues as well, especially in training the agent for so many things. Now, the following will highlight difficulties facing property management. I need another 5 minutes maximum. Lack of communication, that's a difficulty. We don't know how to talk to people. A country like this with a lot of differences, a lot of backgrounds, a lot of nationalities, we have to learn how to communicate with each nationality by itself. Lack of follow-up. Some people, they don't know how to follow up. You call them, they never answer your call. Lack of follow-up is a difficult that we're facing. This is a challenge. Difficulties in selecting the right professional. You would have someone who's got PhD in management, for example, but he doesn't know the alphabet about real estate. So I don't want to hire him because he's holding a PhD. I want to hire someone who understands the market and the trends as well. So we have difficulties in selecting the right people. Lack of teamwork. This is, I don't have to explain it. Everybody knows about it. Now, inability to organize. Also organize is a part of a management, and it's missing here somehow. Lack of attention to details. We don't pay attention to details. Small things today, and after tomorrow, and after tomorrow, and after 2 days, those after 1 year, there will be a big issue, so pay attention to details, please. Difficulties in motivation. We don't know how to motivate people. Again, it's not a matter of human resources, hiring someone, giving them a good salary or whatever, but we have a lack of communication between, for example, the manager and the employees. This is difficult, so we have to get some training on that. Lack of knowledge. We don't know even. Some agents, ask some agents, can you convert, for example, from a foot to a meter? They don't know. Do you know the measurement? Do you know, for example, some agents, I used to tell them, is this an ownership or this is a 99 lease? They would not know. Some people, they discovered this when they went to the land department and they were having their paper and they found out this is 99 years. It's not even an absolute ownership. For God's sakes, this agent, he is not allowed to be in the market if he doesn't know this basic, because people buy on emotions sometimes. I trust you as my agent, but you know what? You have to be a qualified agent in order to sell the property. Improper time management. We don't know how to manage our time. There's something called key performance indicators. We manage the duties of every employee or in our company. Now we have to know how we're going to work on that as well. Lack of effective project management, it was covered. A project management, they do with technical sheets, things. I want someone to deal with management as long as this project is in effect. Choosing the wrong projects or clients is another problem because we don't know how to select a good project. Why is that? Because we don't know the trends of the economy. Not maximizing return on investment. Okay, I purchased a project, for example, and I'm making 10%. This is comfortable, but 10% is not going to remain forever 10%. I want this 10% just to go be increased, for example, especially if the economy is healthy. So 10% is supposed to be 10.5 and 11 and 12. In order to do that, I have to reduce some costs, but the cost has to be dramatically reduce, but by a professional way. But I have to maximize return on investment. Lack of quality service to clients. And you know, everybody I'm sure has a sad story about services, for example, in real estate. Using the same feasibility study for all projects. I found this. I've been working in this field for years, and I know very big names in consultant. They do have the same template for the feasibility study. They just pull it out and fill up numbers. But that's not acceptable to me. Inability to maintain the physical integrity of the building, like, you know, like you jacket like this and you feel like, you know, look at the building, you find the building is like, you know, not maintained properly. The physical integrity of the building will give you the first impression, and that's also marketing. It is easy to follow others who are or who were successful in real estate investment, but that does not necessarily mean that you will also be successful as they are. So if, you know, we copy from each other in this part of the world, why is that? Well, you know, for example, somebody had purchased a property and he made in 6 months 500,000 dirham. It does not mean you're going to make 500,000 dirham. Why is that? People are different. Why is that? People are different. Different in education, different in experience, okay? Different in views, different in ability, different in the income. Okay, in addition, every project has its own identification, timing, elements. Guys, even if there is two projects, two buildings identical on the same street, for example, the tenant of this building is from part of the world, and the other tenant of this building from another part of the world, the management plan has to be different. You cannot manage the same building even if they are identical, because we manage people, we don't manage concrete and blocks, we manage people. So we have to understand not to copy from each other. Guys, look, we have just to go and get the project and evaluate it and put the numbers and decide if we're going to go ahead or just cancel it. We should remember the economic fluctuation and recession is unavoidable in any country. In any country. But limiting the negative effects could be achieved by, and it's not applying only, this is in general, transparency, fighting corruption, political stability, justice and fair laws, okay, fast procedures, excellent services, accurate statistics. If I don't have statistics, how do I predict the future? If I don't have department to help me out in making my feasibility study, how I'm going just to go and invest confidently? So I gotta be careful. Official protection, which thanks God in Dubai at least we have, like, you know, we have law and we have like fast procedures, as the lawyer spoke today. Okay, so official protections. We want quality projects. We want quality projects in order just to invest in real estate. We want opportunities for everyone, which is almost available in Dubai, but we want the whole region also to have an equal opportunities. Okay, I'm about to finish. Please keep in mind that Expo 2020 will run for only 6 months. Is that agreed on? Okay. We must make sure to have a comprehensive plan with the help of real estate experts to continue running the project after the end of Expo 2020, including the project that were completed even before Expo 2020. There were so many people so excited, and their project is almost ready. For example, furnished apartments going to be ready next year, but we still have 4 years to Expo. So we want a plan. Even if your project is ready before Expo, we have to have a plan just to get an income from it. Furthermore, the management plan, that's my personal opinion, the management plan must cover at least 10 years from now. In light of the economic fluctuation, please, economic fluctuation, just copy it and keep it with you all the time. Any business you want to enter, just try to draw the fluctuation of the economy to not have any surprises. Conclusion. Expo 2020 is a good opportunity for real estate industry with a various activity. It is a good for professional investors who want to take advantage from this event must be very well prepared, as mentioned, and should construct a long-time strategy with a comprehensive management plan to carry out their businesses with minimal difficulties after Expo 2020. Now, some of the recommendations, I'll end by that. Get an educated, experienced real estate advisors or personnel. And in order to have this, you have to put the duties, and if you don't have the duties of that, how are you going to hire those people? How am I going to evaluate this person, for example, is qualified or not qualified? If I don't know what's the task of that, I was hired with one of the jobs, and I asked them, what is my task job? They said, well, you're going to be a property manager. I said, okay, so what am I going to do as a property manager? Because this is a different firm. They said, it's a property manager. And then we had a settlement saying, you write your task and we'll agree on it. So I don't want this to happen. So if you want to hire someone, please, you have to understand. Have a better understanding for the economic trees. You have to do that. Prepare an excellent feasibility study for each project individually, which will contain realistic elements. We want this to happen. Hire a professional who have the integrity to tell the truth as they see it. We don't want just because he's my boss, I'm going to tell him you're doing very fine. No, please. Hire the people who are honest. Okay? Now, select a variety of real estate projects in different locations. If you're a big investor, you have a lot of money, please don't just go for one area because everybody's following that area. I'm not going to say the name. So just try to spread and just go everywhere. It's don't just put all your money in one area. You never know what's going to happen. Balance between, this is another advice, balance between luxury and low cost, for example, properties. Why is that? Because the luxury property has probably 7-8% of the population who wants to invest in real estate. But the majority, like me, who are looking for like a reasonable apartment, you could benefit from me. So many studies show that the low-cost building, and I said this on international TV as well, the low-cost building will make you ROI better than the luxury. The luxury is very expensive when you finish them, and you have a very limited clients. But when you go for variety, for example, or low-cost building, definitely you're going to be stable. And if there are any crises, those big figures are going to flew away. But the people who are supporting families, they will be still occupying the apartment and the properties, and you're still making good money. What we have here, respect the time frame for the project. Of course, it's a time management. Make sure to hand over the projects on time. Name me one project that was finished on time. Just name me one. Why is that? No, but we just go and go to the other part of the world. You know what? Every project they finish before the time. Why here we cannot just go and just finish them on time? You're very aware of that, being living in Canada. You know how we can get our projects even a month before the handover date. Get involved in your project personally, please. Don't lean on people. It is not difficult. You don't have to have PhD in order just to enter the real estate market and do management. You can do it by yourself. Just educate yourself. Update your information and take some courses in order just to understand what is the story of a property management or real estate. Finally, do your homework on your own. It is okay to get help from others, that's definitely, but at least get involved. Thank you. Is there any question?